Before we jump in, a tiny favor. If you enjoy learning with us here on Daily English Hour, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a lesson. It really helps our little community grow.
And hey, if you're new here, welcome. I'm David, and this wonderful voice next to me is Emma. We're your teachers for this 30-day challenge, helping you build real confidence step by step.
So, let me start with a small question. Have you ever met someone who talks so fast about technology that you just sit there thinking, oh no, I understand nothing? Because today, that changes.
Exactly. Day 29 is all about technology and the internet, how to talk about it clearly, confidently, and without feeling overwhelmed. And trust me, you use technology every day, so you need this vocabulary.
And don't worry, we're keeping it fun. No boring computer science lessons here, just real conversations, real examples, and a few moments where David might accidentally sound like an 88-year-old man discovering Wi-Fi for the first time.
Hey now, that only happened once. But seriously, we'll show you the most useful phrases for messages, online meetings, social media apps, and troubleshooting. Because if you can explain your tech problems in English, you can survive anywhere.
Let's warm up with something simple. Tell me, when your internet stops working, what's the first thing you say in English? Is it something like, why? Please work. Or maybe just a dramatic sigh.
Same here. But the good news is, there are friendly, natural English phrases that native speakers use all the time. And once you know them, your conversations suddenly feel smoother, more natural, and honestly, a lot funnier.
And stick with us, because by the end of today, you'll be able to talk about tech problems, tech habits, tech life, and tech disasters without getting lost.
All right, ready? Let's dive into the digital world together.
You know, technology becomes a lot less scary when we connect it to real life. So let's start with something everyone does, using our phones way too much.
Oh, yeah, guilty. Sometimes I check my phone for the time, and then somehow I end up watching videos of dogs wearing sunglasses. No idea how it happens.
Right? It's like magic. But here's the good news. Every tech habit you have can be described in simple, natural English. And once you can talk about them, your conversations instantly feel more modern and relatable.
Let's try a few essentials. For example, native speakers often say, I need to charge my phone, or my battery is almost dead. Which is funny because phones die every day and no one cries about it.
Here's another one you'll hear all the time. I think my Wi-Fi is acting up. This means your internet is being slow, weird, or dramatic, like it wants attention.
And if your connection completely dies, you can say, I lost connection, or I got disconnected. Very simple, very useful.
Now, let's talk about social media for a moment. You can say, I scroll too much. I need a break from social media. Or I'm trying to use my phone less. These sound natural and friendly. Not too serious, not too dramatic.
This is something fun. When Americans react to surprising news online, they often say, no way, or you're kidding, or seriously? These tiny emotional reactions make your English feel so much more natural.
And if you want to talk about downloading something, you can say, I'm downloading an app, or it's taking forever. Every English speaker says that at least 3 times a week.
Now let's talk about online meetings, because we all know they come with special challenges.
Like when someone forgets to unmute themselves and you just watch their mouth moving like a silent movie. In English, you can say, "You're muted," or "We can't hear you."
Or when someone suddenly freezes on screen with the most awkward expression. We say, "You froze for a second," or "I think your connection is unstable."
These are everyday, real life expressions that native speakers use exactly the same way. And once you start using them, people feel like, oh, wow, your English sounds so natural.
Before we continue, tell us in the comments, what's the most annoying tech problem you face? Slow Wi-Fi? Full storage? A phone that dies at 2 p.m.? We want to know.
Because the more real examples you share, the more we can help you with the exact English you need. You know, technology becomes even more interesting when we talk about how it shapes our daily routines. Because whether we like it or not, our phones, laptops, and apps are basically our little assistants. And sometimes they're helpful, and sometimes they act like they need a vacation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For example, my phone always decides to update itself at the worst possible moment, right when I need it. And I'm like, why now? I see. Right.
Exactly. And in English, those funny little struggles sound very natural when you use the right phrases, like, my phone is updating. It's taking forever. Or my apps keep crashing.
And here's something super useful. When a device suddenly stops working, native speakers often say, "It froze," "It's glitching," or "It's bugging out."
Now, let's talk about online habits because everyone has them. For example, I check the news too often. I spend too much time on YouTube. I always fall into a scrolling hole. These are real, modern expressions you'll hear everywhere.
And here's one that makes everyone laugh. I need to stop checking my phone before bed. Every English learner I know says that at least once a week. And honestly, same.
Now, let's dig deeper. How do we talk about technology that makes life easier? We can say things like, "This app saves me so much time. I use this to stay organized." Or, "This helps me remember my tasks."
And you might hear native speakers say, "I rely on this app," or "This feature is super helpful." They're small expressions, but they show confidence with everyday tech.
What about notifications? We all have a love-hate relationship with them. Try these. My phone keeps buzzing. I get too many notifications. I turned off alerts. These make conversations feel natural, especially when talking about stress.
Speaking of stress, online messages can be a big one. Sometimes people type too quickly and misunderstandings happen. In English, you can say, "Sorry, I misread your message," or "I didn't catch that. Could you explain?" These save you from awkward moments.
And remember, the goal isn't to sound like a tech expert. The goal is to talk about everyday digital life clearly and confidently?
Actually, let's make this interactive. Tell us in the comments, what app do you use the most each day? Is it YouTube, TikTok, Messenger? Your answers help us plan future lessons based on what you really use.
All right, let's keep going. There's still so much more about technology that will help you sound natural in real conversations.
You know, when people talk about cultural differences, they usually think about food, traditions, or holidays. But one of the biggest differences is how we express feelings in conversation. Some cultures share emotions openly, loudly, proudly. Others share feelings quietly, gently, and only when they truly trust someone. And if you don't understand that difference, conversations can feel confusing or even cold.
Right. And many English learners tell me, why do Americans sound so cheerful all the time? It's true. American English often uses warm tones, friendly reactions, and small emotional comments like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Really? Those tiny reactions are not fake. They're part of how people build connection.
Exactly. And if you don't use those little reactions, people may think you're upset or bored, even if you're just listening quietly. That's why learning emotional rhythm is just as important as vocabulary.
Let's try something simple. Imagine a friend tells you, I got a new job. If you only answer, okay, the conversation stops. But if you react like a native speaker, really? That's great. Tell me more. The conversation opens up like a door. That tiny change creates warmth immediately.
Now, here's where a cultural nuance becomes interesting. In some cultures, showing excitement is a sign of closeness. In others, being too expressive feels uncomfortable. So the goal is not to copy Americans exactly, but to find a comfortable balance where you can still sound friendly and natural.
And here's a little secret for you. Native speakers don't always sound excited because they feel excited. They sound excited because it makes the other person feel seen. It's a social skill, not a personality trait. So you can practice it, even if you're naturally quiet.
Let's look at another example. Someone says, I visited my parents last weekend. A natural English reaction could be, oh, really? That's nice. How are they doing? Notice the gentle rise in tone, the small emotion that says, I'm listening. It's subtle, but powerful.
And this is especially important when you're speaking with people from cultures where direct communication is common. For example, Americans often say exactly what they feel. I'm tired today. That stressed me out. I need a break. But in other cultures, people hide those feelings to stay polite. Neither way is wrong. They're just different. But when you understand the difference, you avoid misunderstandings.
I remember one of my students telling me, I thought my American coworker was angry, but actually, she was just speaking directly. We laughed about it later, but that moment taught him that emotion plus tone plus culture always travel together.
So here's something you can try today. When someone shares information with you, add a small emotional reaction. Not big, not forced. Just one soft, natural response like, oh, wow. Oh, that makes sense. That's interesting. I get that. And watch how the conversation grows warmer immediately.
And remember, being expressive does not mean being loud. It simply means letting your voice show a hint of feeling. It tells the other person, I'm here with you.
You're going to see how these tiny emotional choices help you connect with people from any culture, whether you're traveling, working, or just chatting online. It's one of the most beautiful parts of global communication. The moment when two different ways of speaking meet in the middle and make sense to each other. You know, one of my favorite things about learning languages is that moment when everything suddenly feels human, not technical. And today's topic, cultural differences in communication, is exactly about that. It's about learning how people feel, react, connect, and understand each other, no matter where they come from.
Right. And when you start noticing these little patterns, the smiles, the tone, the small emotional reactions, you begin to see English not just as a language, but as a bridge between you and someone who grew up with totally different habits, traditions, values, and expectations.
Let's try something practical. Imagine you're meeting someone from a different country for the first time. You want to sound open and friendly, but also respectful. Here are a few lines native speakers use naturally. Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. I'd love to hear about your experience. That makes sense. I can see why you feel that way. These lines work in any culture because they make the other person feel understood.
Right. And this is important. You don't need perfect grammar to build a connection. You just need to sound genuinely interested. A small, oh, wow, or really can change the whole energy of a conversation. I've seen shy learners transform their relationships just by adding one tiny emotional phrase.
Another thing to remember is this: different cultures show politeness differently. Some cultures value directness. They say, I don't agree, clearly and calmly. Others prefer softer language. I'm not sure about that. Or maybe we can think about another idea. Neither way is wrong, but when you understand which style the other person uses, you avoid unnecessary misunderstandings.
And if you're ever unsure, you can use the soft but friendly middle style. Something like, I see what you mean, and maybe another option could be, it's polite, it's open, it's universal.
Now, here's a really helpful exercise you can practice today. Choose one friend, coworker, or family member who communicates differently from you. And during your next conversation, pay attention to their tone. Notice, do they react quickly or slowly? Do they show emotion openly or softly? Do they ask direct questions or indirect ones? You'll start to see patterns you never noticed before.
And once you see them, you'll naturally adjust your own tone. Not to copy them, but to meet them halfway. That's what real global communication feels like. Two different styles finding a shared rhythm.
And honestly, that rhythm is what makes English conversations so beautiful. Because every time you adjust your tone, every time you react with warmth, every time you show true curiosity, you're not just improving your English, you're building trust.
Right, and trust is what makes conversations meaningful. It's what turns strangers into friends, coworkers into teammates, cultures into connections. So before we wrap up today, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, which cultural difference in communication surprised you the most? Maybe it was how Americans show enthusiasm, or how some cultures value silence, or how tone changes the meaning of the same sentence. Whatever it is, sharing your experience will help other learners too.
And if today's lesson helped you understand English conversations more deeply, stay with us on this journey. Every day, you're building a stronger, more confident voice. We're really proud of you.
Thank you for learning with us today. Take care, keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next lesson.